Hi everyone, my name is David Marriott and I'm the principal of a friendly, progressive and dynamic international school in the warm heart of Africa, Malawi. I'd like to welcome you to Talks on Ed, your podcast that explores the new and exciting challenges that face education in these changing times. If you are at all interested in education, log in, listen and contribute where you can. And if you've liked what you've heard over the course of the podcast, do like and share at the end. Let's dive in. Welcome to the studio again. This time in our series of rolling out a remote learning platform, we will be talking to Joe Marriott from St Andrews International Primary School about the program in early years, because it's a common held belief that remote learning cannot be conducted with early years children. And by necessity, of course, at St Andrews, we were forced into making sure that it could work so that we could keep the engagement with our children. So it's actually a very interesting topic today for those of you who are involved in early years education. But welcome, Joe, to the studio.
Thank you.
So, of course, this all came upon us quite quickly. And we had 4 days to turn around a remote learning platform for all of our children, including our youngest, which are right down to 18 months. Mm-hmm. So what were your initial thoughts and perhaps concerns about this when it was first brought to your attention that we would need to take our learning online?
Well, of course, initially, early years life being very hands-on for children, whether at home or whether they're at school. Of course, hands-on life doesn't necessarily equate to online learning or remote learning. That's what the initial fear, I think, for a lot of our parents was. And for us as well, we have a lot of practical engagement, obviously, and that's what we base a huge amount of our curriculum on. So, of course, there was some concerns to start with, thinking, how on earth, in a short time frame, can we manage it? But actually, we just went back to the principles of good learning in early years, and we thought long and hard about how we could make it as accessible as possible for our parent body. We know that they're going through a really tricky time at the moment, as you know, everyone worldwide is. So those things weren't going to change just because of the age of the children. In fact, it's probably even harder with little ones, because whether you're working from home or you're still going into work, those little people never ever stop. So the initial sense was, oh my goodness, what are we going to do and how? But it didn't take us long to work out how we could use video, how we could use audio, how we could make sure that the learning opportunities we afford the children in school could be translated so that people can do many of those things at home. So yeah, initially the surprise turned into kind of determination and excitement, because it sort of seems like a good opportunity.
I'm hearing quite a lot of positivity and quite a lot of optimism about it.
Yeah.
And do you think that's a change in your kind of mood since then? Do you think there's been
there are ups and downs to introducing anything new and rolling anything out, but we worked really hard for a long time with our parent partnership, and we've also really valued the feedback that parents give us. So quite quickly, we started asking parents as a group or through surveys or whatever, but also just one-to-one when we were talking to them, what they needed and how it could work best for them. Obviously, their circumstances vary, but we got quite excited quite quickly, and the early years team that I'm really lucky to work with were fantastic. They said no to nothing. They just kept going and trying new things, and we've trialed and modified. But our platform provides parents with huge amount of accessible information. So we use quite a lot of video content, and that can be tricky. We make sure it's all available for them to look at the weekend, and so that they can then do it kind of at their leisure when they've got the time. And then they can also kind of break things down. We provide suggested timetables for them so that they can modify it. They've got a picture of what it could look like. But the primary positive has been that our connection with them as parents has just got stronger and stronger. And of course, that benefits the children a lot. So whilst we're not seeing the children face to face, it still has worked.
So I'm sure there've been quite a lot of positives, and I'm certainly hearing a lot of positivity about the whole program, as we are now 6 weeks in, 6 weeks or so into the program. But early on, I'm going to ask you to take yourself back now to the first couple of weeks. You must have experienced some lows, I'm guessing, some kind of some downtime or some down feelings, if you like. What was that like? Or what were those about, and what was that like?
Okay, so firstly, those, our initial surprise and, the time frame being short and so on, as professionals, we kind of got over that quite quickly as we could see possibility and we could see ways of problem solving around it, basically. But of course, for our parent body, much of what they love about kind of the way we've been running things and that how their children are settled is that, face-to-face contact that the children have with us, that they themselves as parents have with us. And those kind of bonds that I talked about before, the parent partnership and parent relationship. So how do you recreate those? I think the parents kind of hit a low after, a week or two. Oh my goodness, this is real. This isn't just, a day or two. This isn't just a gimmick. We've really got to run this, and how am I going to do that and balance that with all of my other life priorities? So that had a knock-on effect on us, because then, of course, we saw our engagement figures were not as perhaps high as we'd hoped, as quickly as we'd hoped, and but we've worked really hard to engage parents in lots of different ways. And then as we've, I spoke to one child yesterday, and he was just beaming and so excited and telling me he missed me and I miss him, and we had a fantastic conversation, and mum was there as well, and she got to see then that whole interaction. So our online connection with the children through the platforms that we're using means that the parents actually really see what we do. So as that's grown, the parents have got more and more excited, more and more engaged with it, and that just benefits everybody. So we're really pleased.
I mean, I'm hearing a lot of that there were some anxieties in the beginning.
Yeah.
Of course. What is it like? There were obviously some highs as well. Can you think of any specific instances? You mentioned one now about the child that you saw yesterday, online, of course. Any other particular highs that have sort of highlighted things for you about
really
the platform?
What we've spent a long time doing is trying to help parents to understand better, the stages of child development and what looks typical, and how we can support children to, make the best of every opportunity they've got, and how they can develop. So that's always challenging, I think, for all early years professionals. It's difficult, but we had kind of come to a point where we were trying to think, well, what do we do next? And we've developed our family centre within the school, which has been a step towards that. But now actually the golden part of this for all of me, for me, has been that we are now getting parents who say things like, oh, I never knew my child could do that. Oh, I've seen him do this. Yeah. What comes next? Like, tell me, can you send me something that I can use for X, Y, Z? And the answer, of course, is yes, I will.
And of course, parents, there's often this disconnect in schools, isn't there? That parents see schools as a place that they can put their children for the day.
Yeah.
So it's an educational institution, but also it's childcare.
Yeah.
Now, this online learning seems to have crossed that, or it seems to have shed some light on what the children are actually learning for the parents, which makes that engagement a bit better.
No, absolutely. And I think for parents as well, they've got a real sort of sense of what we do moment to moment and day to day while a child is in school, but actually how they can they're taking the skills, we're explaining the objectives. So when we deliver, for example, we'll do a video that's aimed at the children about whatever it is we're learning, and then there'll be an accompanying little 1 minute long video, 60 seconds on this objective, like the aim of this activity is to help your child to X, Y, Z. Yeah. And the parents have been really positive about that, because then they know, if I ask this question, it's going to help my child in this way. So that's been great. But I agree with what you mentioned about, the different childcare, education, this whole idea that they're separate things. Of course, for us in early years, they're not. It's very much blended, but parents are starting to realise that it is the same thing, and they can also be really involved.
And they should be.
And they should be.
And all the research suggests that the children that have the most involved parents
they do best.
At school. So, and this has been by force, I suppose, force of circumstance. Parents have had to become involved, which has been of benefit, I think, ultimately to everybody.
Absolutely, and we're already starting to think about how we can prolong that. No matter when schools sort of go back, it's not going to be normal, is it? Because it'll be a new normal. Yeah. But however it is when children can physically come into the building, we want to maintain some of those really positive processes we've started and facilities we've provided, because we think that with our parents being as busy as they are, they can still make good use of those, and it will just benefit the children, from now on. Yeah, that's great.
Fantastic. So we're 6 weeks in. If you include the holiday that we had in the middle, we're nearly 8 weeks in. And I know that it's been a long road for all the teachers, and of course the teachers themselves, and I'm talking about teachers right throughout the school, but also obviously in your department, have become skilled up. They've gained a whole different set of skills in online delivery, which has been amazing. How have they dealt with it, do you think?
Well, as a team, I think they've been absolutely phenomenal, because they've not, it's not been easy by any means. One of the things that I think all teachers, I'm going to make a gross generalisation, all teachers I think love, we go into it because we care about the children. We see their reaction, that moment, that light bulb moment when they get something, when they know something, when they've developed a new skill and they're proud of themselves. That's the golden bit for us. And so, of course, we haven't got that going on now. So whilst we know it's going on at home, as the parents are being more involved, we're slightly envious of the parents' time with the children, if I'm honest. But actually, we haven't got that direct feedback that you get that inspires you to keep going as a teacher, and I think that's been really hard for a lot of teachers these days. But you're asking about the team. They've really just taken it on, and they're trying new things. Their IT skills have skyrocketed, and also their enthusiasm for being flexible and the willingness to try new things. And I think that's going to have a huge knock-on effect when we get back to school, like I said before, in whatever format that takes, because all those that adaptability is going to have a really positive impact on everything else.
Sure.
Which is really good. And already, like I said, we're starting to think of the next stage. What's next?
Well, so that leads very nicely to my next question. What is next? What is next for the remote learning as it's been now? I mean, schools around the world are talking about opening up again in phased openings or whatever, whatever model they're adopting for that. What do you think? How do you think our learning from this remote learning spell, if you like, is going to influence our models of education as we go forward?
Just a small question.
Yeah.
I think for all children, like I said before, the parent partnerships have grown, and we would all be foolish to let those go. They should keep building, because I think it's beneficial for all of us. Us as teachers, to understand parents' perspective better, then we can provide things in such a way they can access it, etc., etc. But I think as far as we go in our setting here in our school, what we want to do is keep on developing our family centre, because I think like now more than ever, it's going to be beneficial and needed for parents. We're already starting to talk about how we can develop online parenting courses that parents can access, in a blended learning kind of format, so that they can also kind of develop their skills and have a place to go in this new and changing COVID era for some support. And I think also it's going to kind of flip some of the learning in a good way. Sounds like a very grand statement to make for such little children when you look at early years, but actually parents genuinely often are surprised at what children need to know, could be knowing, could be doing,
and in fact what they do know
and what they already know. I think parenting is so busy that sometimes we just miss that for our own children. So this has kind of opened that door, and we really want to very much keep that open and carry on with that.
No, it's been, I have to say, the early years department has been a phenomenal team over the course of this last 8 weeks, and certainly they've pulled children as young as 18 months in and on a consistent basis for nearly 2 months, and that's a phenomenal feat. Last question. One big takeaway for you from this whole situation?
I've mentioned parents an awful lot. That's not to discount the children in any way, because the children have been absolutely amazing and so excited and so full of awe and wonder to have like virtual hide and seek or an online circle time or an online show and tell. But the biggest takeaway, I think, is how I've seen that parents who are engaged will literally try and move mountains to make it work for their child, and they will listen and they will ask and they will just not give up. And I think often as educators we sometimes forget that parents don't know necessarily what we have on it in our heads, and I think that connection is just invaluable, and that's been my biggest takeaway. You know, my gratefulness to the parents of the children that we teach, and wanting to keep on encouraging them, basically. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Jo, for joining us today. And keep going. Hopefully the schools will open up at some point in the near future and we can get back to having the kids in the class. But it's been a great job so far, and thank you for coming in to give us your opinions and your perspectives on the whole thing. And thank you to everybody for sitting through the podcast and enjoying the content. Do remember to like and share if you've enjoyed the content, and join us again next week for more insight into the world of education. Thank you.